For this project, I was lucky enough to interview my auntie Amira about her immigration story. Her family came to Australia from Egypt when she was very young, and she shared her experiences with me. In this presentation, I'll examine how Amira's story impacted me and made me feel, my process of and approach to listening, and how my listening skills and philosophy will influence my inclusive practices as an early childhood teacher. My listening approach going into this interview was to be present, focused, and to give Amira my undivided attention while she spoke. I wanted my body language to be positive and engaged and to maintain eye contact as best as possible. However, I knew this could be a barrier as the interview was conducted via Zoom. I also didn't want to interrupt Amira, so she was free to tell the story in her own way. As the interview was held virtually, I was mindful that this could affect the outcome and potentially alter the way Amira shared her experiences.
So the reasons why they left was because there was an opportunity, firstly, extended to anyone that wanted to leave. And my parents thought it's a good opportunity to take it up. And the reason they thought it'd be good to leave was to start a new life without being persecuted, because where we're from, my family's from Alexandria in Egypt, and overall that country was mainly inhabited by Muslims, and my family was Christian, or still is Christian family, and my father had trouble finding work, and one of the bad things about getting a job, this is how hard it was. Like, he would go for an interview, I was told, and they would ask him a lot of the questions about the job and whether they wanted to find out if he was suitable. And they would also ask, one of the questions was, are you a Muslim? And my father would say no, because he had to be honest, and then he wouldn't get the job. So it was pretty hard to get work if you weren't a Muslim, or if you didn't practice Islam, or you weren't part of Islam, you know.
I was strongly impacted by the reason why Amira's family left Egypt. Her father found it difficult to find work as a Christian man in a predominantly Muslim society, and they were given the opportunity to come to Australia. It was interesting and shocking to learn of the political and religious nature of their departure from Alexandria. This moment affected me because I find it sad that people are discriminated against because of their religion or beliefs. While listening to her story, I was also empathetic to the challenges Amira must have experienced settling in and adjusting to life and a different culture in Australia. Being such a young immigrant, she spoke mostly of memories centered around language and her early schooling years. Amira attended a Catholic girls' school of predominantly Italian families, a few other ethnicities, and maybe one other Arabic family. Amira told me about a time when she was excluded from playing jump rope in the playground. Although she and her peers were all from the new wave of immigration, she was still excluded. Not because she was un-Australian, but because she was not part of the Italian majority at her school. I found this to be an interesting development in my understanding of exclusion and diversity. I listened to Amira's story, aware of my privilege that I have never had to leave my country for fear of persecution because of my religious beliefs, and hopefully I listened without bias and judgment. Not having had the same experience as Amira, but still having a family history of immigration, I wonder how this affected my listening experience compared to someone with no personal understanding of immigration. I'm sure I was able to relate to her experience in a way that others could not.
You can even ask me anything you like.
What else can I ask?
Well, I can even tell you about my dad.
Okay, yeah, you can tell me about your dad. I don't know much about him.
In his TED Talk about story listening, Mark Lovett discusses our ability to process words faster than we speak. So we often find ourselves daydreaming and coming up with our own story, or it presents an opportunity to interrupt and to try and take control of the conversation. I was very mindful of this while listening to Amira's story and waited until she finished speaking. However, I did often find myself making connections to my own life, which meant I wasn't entirely present in the story listening experience. Therefore, this is a criticism of my listening approach, as I found myself relating to her story, finding similarities with mine, and therefore becoming distracted and not being fully attentive to what she was saying. At one stage, Amira talked about how her mother didn't really embrace their heritage or had much to do with the Arabic community, and I wish I had asked her why she thinks that was the case.